Welcome to Mallet and Michelle on Dripping Springs, hosted by me, Michelle Lewis, and surprise, surprise, Steve Mallet.
Steve Mallet, who forgot to give you a cue on when to go. What a great show we got lined up today.
Steve, huh? 99
How
episodes.
insane is that, Michelle?
99
episodes. Haven't missed a week. Had a couple weeks where things have been nuts. But
thanks to Steve's mom for listening to all 99.
All 99
episodes.
Yeah. If there's any other longevity people out there, marathoners that have listened to everyone, please email us and let us know. Show today brought to you by M. Elliott Studio and
Capital Farm Credit.
Yeah, thanks for sponsoring each and every show we've got. Today, we've got a little bit of a contentious issue to talk about.
Ooh, what is it? Is it when you turn the heater on when it's still 80 degrees outside?
It's the time change rant, but we'll talk about that in a second. Okay. No, I don't know how to pronounce this gentleman's last name. Steve, I think it's Warntjes. It's Warntjes. He's going to come in. He's representing the coalition of folks that are working to prevent the development of this music venue out on Fitzhugh Road.
Everybody has their fire sticks. What are those things?
Pitchforks.
Pitchforks.
Fire sticks.
I just know fires. You know what I'm talking about. It's like that pitchfork.
The rabble have the pitchforks, huh? Anyway, he's going to come in. I don't know exactly his position. We had to work through a PR firm to get access to him. There's a PR firm up in...
well, we know his position. They're opposing it.
Yeah, I know, but I don't know if he's a paid position or what. But he's going to come in here a little bit.
Is he a paid position?
I'm not sure.
And who's paying him?
Well, those are questions we're going to ask.
Yes.
And then we put it out on Facebook on the neighbors page and got a ton of great questions, which we will try and get to each and every one of these. If you asked a question on Facebook, make sure you listen in, and we'll cover as many of these as we can. Some of the questions are really not for him. They're questions about what the county would do and things like that. But we'll ask him the pertinent questions. Going back to my time change rant. So it's a week ago now, but this time change thing is so archaic, so stupid. I'm telling you, when this comes out in a week, I'll still not be right from it.
So this is actually daylight savings time. This is not standard time. So when they decide, if they ever vote on it, is it going to be this time or is it going to be standard time?
I think it's this time.
Well, that sucks. Well, because
I don't care. I don't honestly care.
It gets dark at like 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Why are we changing the damn clock?
Because it's the farmers.
Oh,
I don't know.
There is no.
I don't know why.
There's no valid reason anymore. Not one single valid reason why we got to do this to ourselves every 6 months.
Okay.
Everybody complains about it. There's even studies that say that more people have heart attacks. There's more auto accidents. There's more people that have sleep issues. It's like, why are we doing this to ourselves?
Well, my dogs don't know anything about time change at all.
That's reason enough not to do it. So politicians, if you're listening, please just stop.
Politicians don't listen to normal, average people like you and I.
Want.
They don't. All they do is they get, the majority of them, not all of them, the majority of them just get elected to get rich.
Stop playing with the damn microphone, Michelle.
I'm sorry. Ooh, you said a bad word. I'm telling your mom.
Oh, Mom's going to find out.
Hey, talking about putting a question out on the neighbors page, sometimes it can be such a great resource and sometimes it can be, for information. A couple of things about that. When you're in a group, at the top right-hand corner, there is a little magnifying glass that if you decide to ask a question that's been asked 1,403 times, and you get roasted for it, it is your own fault, because in that magnifying glass you can ask the same question.
Yep.
But so I thought of doing something kind of funny every now and then. It's just like a new series of like funny and stupid stuff we find on the neighbors page. And this one really struck me. It made me laugh all day thinking about this. I'm not going to mention her last name, but her name is Linda, and she put it on the neighbors page. And she said, What in the heck is going on when people steal stuff out of your grocery cart? At HEB today, I did a self-checkout because I prefer that. I got home and realized my cottage cheese and Philly cheese was not in my bags. Then I realized I didn't check them out and they were not on my receipt. Whoever did this, just glad they didn't get my purse. I'm so trusting. I walk away from my cart looking at items. That won't happen again.
My gosh.
Okay, so
I can't even imagine the responses that were on
so
there.
one of them, poor Linda, I suggest you delete this post. This was
You can do that, by the way. You can go in. You don't have to suffer through it. Just say, oop, that was a mistake,
that was
and
bad.
go ahead and delete
Hey,
it.
I posted something on Dripping Gripes and Grins one time. Somebody posted something. I raised the BS flag on it. I got roasted for it. I turned around and I apologized for it, saying that, it was my bad. I owned up to it. But here's my favorite comment out of this. I once have drank too much for grocery shopping. It happens to the best of us. One of the other ones was I grabbed them. Didn't feel like walking to the back of the store for my cottage cheese and cream cheese fix. But I have done this before. I have accidentally stolen someone's cart before and or put things in somebody else's cart.
It's been a year or so ago, but we were in there and we walked over, I was getting some fruit or something, and I turned around and my cart was gone, and there was a cart kind of a couple feet over that was just sitting there with nobody around, and I watched, and there was this woman going around the corner with our cart, and I was like, ma'am, and first she was looking at me like, what the hell do you want? Like, this is our cart. And she looked down, she's like, oh, I'm so sorry. It does happen.
Well, lately, I've been noticing Todd. He's doing our grocery shopping when he's with me, like he's mall walking and he's leaning on the cart. And I'm like, dude, like I don't have time for this. We're not like grazing every aisle. Let's get in.
Does he stop and pick stuff up and read it and check it out and put it back?
It's driving me crazy. But back to the Facebook post, I thought it was pretty funny. Not to roast you, Linda. I think, bless your heart. I think it was, innocent, innocent enough. I really think you thought somebody stole something out of your cart. But, sometimes we're just frazzled people going about our day. But with that, I posted on the neighbors page under our Mallet and Michelle page, the neighborhood Facebook bingo, which I'm just going to give you a couple of them. So if someone posts this, maybe fun to play Found Animal, which is almost every day. Traffic warning.
Stop driving in the left lane.
Saw someone commit a misdemeanor. Store closed or moved. Thinly veiled racism.
Oh, God.
Complaint about complainers.
Uh-huh.
I don't know where this one falls. Anyone smell that? That one is.
What about terrible service at a restaurant?
That's probably internet power is out. Question about something I could have easily Googled. That goes back to the magnifying glass.
Yeah.
Hope that was fireworks and not a gun. And danger at the park's lake/playground. And my all-time favorite is the traffic complaint. So now we're having the music venue. Look, Facebook is a wonderful public forum.
Can be.
It really can. It can be. And I think that what you posted about asking questions, that's a great opportunity for people that don't really feel comfortable going to or don't have the time or means, whatever, to go to these public forums where these things are discussed. So we're going to read some of these questions to him.
Yeah, it's actually kind of interesting. There's a couple of thinly veiled arguments on here. So, when you're just trying to help the community, you don't need to argue with each other on there. Just post your questions and maybe make a little comment here and there about what people have posted. But everybody's entitled to their opinion.
No, they're not.
Yeah. Hey, it's that time of year.
Ooh, what is it?
The Porch Pirates are back.
Oh, yeah.
I was thinking about when I was a kid growing up, this whole concept of having multiple packages delivered to your house every single day, it didn't exist. We used to get, this is going to date myself, but we used to get the Sears catalog. Do you remember that?
If you don't date yourself, I always am here for it.
You're ready for it. The Sears catalog, I'm holding my fingers up about 4 inches apart.
Yeah.
The Sears catalog was about 4 inches. It had every possible thing you could ever want in your entire life in there.
That's where my brother went to go look at boobies. It was in the bra section.
That's true. They had a great lingerie section. But you used to, when we lived overseas, you'd get the Sears catalog, and there was a form in the middle that you had to rip out. You filled it out. You wrote a check. You put it in an envelope. You mailed it to Sears. And then like 4 months later, I'd get a pair of jeans that didn't fit me anymore because I grew.
Your Toughies?
My Toughies, yeah. I remember waiting. I ordered a Vikings, Minnesota Vikings, like cape, like what do you call it? Like a rain poncho.
Why?
I don't know. I was a Vikings fan when I was like 8 years old, and I waited like 4 months to get it. I was so excited, and I wore it like 3 times, and it ripped and fell apart. But so today, though, people get, I mean, how often do you get 5-6 packages on your doorstep in a day?
Steve, we're not going to talk about how often I get packages on my door. If I don't get packages on my door, I think the Amazon guy calls like a missing person.
I think that's right. Well, have you ever had anything stolen from your front porch?
No, not packages because of where we live, but I did have some little hoodlums steal all of my Christmas outside of my yard. He threw them down the gutter.
Jeez, juvenile delinquents.
I went over there and grabbed him by the neck and threw him in the gut. No, I didn't, but that was only in my head. But no, you know what? I could see that. I could see it. My son, he lives over here in Big Sky, and he's like, "Hey, I'm going to have something delivered. Can you go get it?" But everybody now has Ring cameras. So do people not care?
Well, so here's the story. So 1 in 7 people have had a package stolen from their front porch. There's in the story that I read, there was a woman, I don't know what part of the country, but she had some serious medical issues that required her to get about $500 a month worth of medical supplies delivered to her home, and they were all getting stolen from her front porch. So the thieves don't really care about the cameras anymore. They can cover up their face. You can't tell. And honestly, if they're going into like CVS and Walgreens and stealing $750 worth of stuff, do you think they care that somebody's going to see them taking a package off their front porch?
I've seen these videos where they do glitter bombs. They stick the glitter bombs in there, and then they open them up and they explode and glitter, or dog poop.
I was just going to say, I think maybe you clean up your yard and put it in a package and leave it on the front.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But there's 2 companies. There's a company called, I think it's Eufy. It's EUFY Smart Drop. They have a box that you can bolt down onto your front porch. Oh. And it's Wi-Fi compatible. And you can, when you do your order online with Amazon or something, you can say the code for the box is whatever, 9011.
Beep, bop, boop, boop.
Beep, beep, boop, boop, boop. And then the driver can put the packages in there and close it up. And there's actually an optional camera you can get. So you could have your Ring camera and then the camera on the box. So if somebody does try and steal it, but it's bolted down. So, and then Yale has one called the Yale Smart Delivery. And the Yale one's $330. I don't know if that one bolts down. It looks kind of like one of those plastic boxes that you store your hose in. It's pretty ugly.
Your pantyhose?
No, not those. Your garden hose. Is there a box you're supposed to store your pantyhose in?
Yeah, they're eggs.
Oh, God. So $400 for the Eufy one, $330 for the Yale one. But if you're getting a lot of packages and some of them are getting stolen, it's probably a good investment.
Yeah, well, I mean,
I don't know what else you could do. Maybe build a moat around your house or something.
Don't steal stuff that doesn't belong to you.
People don't care anymore. There's no boundaries.
Human being.
There's no boundaries. People don't have them. It's like they see it and they go, you know what? It's free for the taking.
Did you see the video of the grown adults stealing all the Halloween candy?
I did.
That just makes me disgusted.
I think that stuff's always gone on, though. We just see it now because it's on social media. It's online.
Yeah, I guess so.
All this weird stuff has always gone on. We're just more upset about it now because it's in our face.
Yeah, well, people suck. Yeah. Okay, so
they do not.
The people suck. Are you traveling at all this holiday?
Probably not. I mean, we're going to go down to Corpus, but probably not.
That is not traveling. Yeah.
Sorry.
Well,
that's all I'm going.
So do you know the original story of Bergstrom Airport? You know how it used to be the Air Force Base, blah, 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 blah,
I do know that. Yep.
Okay. So do you know the big round building kind of by the cell phone lot, the Hilton?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you know what that was?
We've talked about it on the show, Michelle.
A little bit, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Marshall was telling us it was like SAC command or something. It was
So it used to be, it was the command center of the Air Force there, but it was also known as the Donut, the Little Pentagon, and the Roundagon, I think is what they called it. But the Air Force Base closed down in 1993. But this is the reason why I was bringing this up, because I thought this was really interesting to today's times, because not to be a conspiracy theorist, but we're hearing all this stuff about nuclear, preparations.
Say that word again.
Nuclear. But during the Cold War, there were 3 nuclear. Did I say it right?
Nuclear.
Bunkers.
You're learning how to sell it or say it from George Bush.
Nuclear. I'm Texan. That the president could fly into in case of a nuclear attack. And Bergstrom Air Force Base was one of those. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
There's a bunker, and it has like bomb-proof walls. There's like a whole I don't know. Maybe you can do a tour if you go to the Hilton. I don't know. Maybe you can't hear the people next to you if you're staying in the Hilton. But I also found out that Hilton, or the Air Force Base, was also the original home, or one of the homes, to the Mexican free-tail bats before they either relocated them or whatever to Congress Bridge. That was where they were originally hanging out.
Some handyman probably just sealed up the opening on the building, and then the bats had to go someplace else, and they found the Congress Street Bridge. Well,
so next time you are either going to the airport or waiting at the cell phone lot to pick somebody up, and a big mushroom cloud hits you, run to the Hilton.
There you go. You're right there.
Yeah, run to the Hilton, and you will be fine.
I wasn't going to talk about this, but have you seen? It's about 5 years old. It's a movie called Downsizing with Matt Damon.
Yeah, and they shrink them.
They shrink them down to about 5 inches
But they
tall.
lose their hair. That would stress me out.
Oh, God.
I saw that.
It's a weird movie, and it's actually a little disturbing. We watched it last night, and it's amazing how many people will sign up for the weirdest stuff. And that is so extreme. But it reminded me a little, I'm going to go talk about conspiracy. It reminds me of how some people will just get in line for just the craziest things if they feel like it's doing some kind of good that somebody's explaining.
What's the craziest thing you've gotten in line for that you can think of? Like, even like when you were younger, like when we were talking about this concert venue, it's like, did you ever wait in line for tickets?
I never did that.
You didn't?
I think the wildest thing I probably ever did was I sat in the bleachers at the 24 Hours of Daytona for 24 hours once back in the probably mid-'70s. It's a 24-hour auto race at Daytona Speedway, and actually, we were probably there a day and a half because we got there early before the start and then watched the awards at the end. But it goes on. It's whoever does the most laps in 24 hours, and we camped out in the stands for 24 hours, sleeping bags and the whole.
That sounds incredibly boring.
It was so fun.
I almost died running to the front.
From here to your car.
From here to my car, just running, period, the end. No, back when I was a kid in Corpus, when concerts were going on, they would open the doors and there was no assigned seating, and literally you
just ran.
ran. So Def Leppard and I just would run, and I was like getting trampled, and but I made it. I was little. I was
squirrely. How did we survive those times?
I can't believe my mother or my stepfather, who was a CIA agent, would let me go to these things. But probably at that point, I'm a Gen Xer, so our parents didn't give a crap what we did. They didn't care. We played with matches. We did. I don't know. They just let us do whatever we wanted to. So I've turned out to be a decent human being, aside from the fact I've worked for Steve Mallett for 10 years.
Keep thinking that.
I'm decent. I didn't say
you are. You're a good person.
I'm just decent.
I read this story last week, and then it was confirmed at we had a guy from TxDOT came and did a presentation at Texas National Title.
Oh, that was really good.
That was really good. Some great projects coming. But one of the things that I asked him about was the Texas Transportation Commission just authorized $345 million for bike paths and safety in the state of Texas. So we're probably going to start seeing some more bike paths. Why are you making that face?
Because I think that you bike people need to be paying something to use our roads that we pay for.
I pay just as much as you.
What if you didn't have a car? What if you were just a bike person?
Then I should get a tax credit.
Please. I'm going to debate you all day. You know why? Because if you have to drive on a Sunday afternoon and some bike hole is on Circle Drive and on a blind curve.
I didn't even tell you, and you just set up my story perfectly.
Oh,
so
like my name, Bike Hole?
Yeah, your bike hole. 92 people were killed last year riding bikes in Texas.
I don't advocate killing people on bicycles, but
here's the thing. I wanted to tell a quick little story about. So my friend Javier, Yasmin's wife. Yasmin's been a guest.
Yes,
yeah. Javier and I ride together all the time. Great guy.
Origin, yeah.
Yeah. We were riding in Wimberley, and there's a section of road that we have to go on, 2325. We ride all back roads, but to do this loop that we like to do, we have to get on 2325 for about 2 miles to connect to another
bike hole.
Bike hole. So it's a pretty narrow road, and people are going 60 miles an hour, and there's a white line and about 6 inches of asphalt, and we ride that white line or that 6 inches of asphalt. You might occasionally swerve out if the wind or something. But we were riding single file. We were not side by side.
You weren't holding hands, right?
No, we were not holding hands, not singing Kumbaya. We were riding along. I was in front. He was in back. And it's Sunday morning about, 8:30, 9 o'clock. And we're going on 2325.
You're fitting the profile of the person I'm talking about.
But we are on the white line. I am taking the space that's given to me.
Okay.
This guy goes by in about a 10-year-old Chevy pickup truck going about 70 miles an hour. And I am not kidding. I am not exaggerating. His mirror came, and Holly's going to freak out, within about 8 inches of us. And we both, it freaked me out. It scared what out of me.
But was somebody coming the other way towards him?
No, there was nobody else out on the road.
So he did it on purpose.
He did it on purpose.
Yeah. That's
so we're
not
riding, and my blood's boiling.
Yeah.
I was really mad, and I
So
look
you got
up,
on your bicycle and chased him?
About a half mile up the road, he pulls in a driveway. So by then, I'm like, I'm about to tell somebody what's happening.
Yeah.
And so I pull in, and it's this older gentleman.
Are you in your bicycle shorts?
I am in my Lycra. I am in my Lycra.
Okay, yeah. Set this up.
So I pull into his crushed granite driveway, and he's getting out of his truck. We got some workmen here. We had to tell him to stop. So he's getting out of his truck. He's dressed real nice, cowboy hat on, cowboy boots. And I could tell he's just coming from church. And
Jesus saw you.
I know. And so I go, "Excuse me, sir, you just about killed us." I said, "Can you tell me why you thought it was okay for you to do that?" And he just sort of gives me this sort of backhanded wave, like no big deal. And I go, "We're just two guys out trying to enjoy our Sunday ride. We don't need an asshole like you, I'm sorry, trying to kill us. We all have families." And he just kept on walking.
He's a truck hole.
Well,
that's a truck hole.
My point is, I get it. Sometimes there are people out there that are in your way, but those people have families, they have moms, they have kids, and for you to have to get someplace 30 seconds early, you can't wait to go around them. Just please show a little courtesy.
For him to do that, that was not cool.
It was not cool. So anyway, I'm excited. $345 million coming for bike safety. So there'll be some bike paths and places. So maybe on some of those roads where we have to, if I just had 2 feet of extra road, I could have been, completely off the road. But anyway.
I just want a picture of you in your Lycra.
Oh, there's plenty of pictures of me in my Lycra.
Waving your finger.
I think I look pretty damn good.
It's very masculine.
It is very masculine. Hey, all right, we're going to take a little break and get Steve in here, who's representing the coalition that is opposed to the new music venue off of Fitzhugh Road. So sit tight. We'll be right back. Proudly sponsored by...
At Capital Farm Credit, they understand that owning land is more than just a transaction. It's a legacy, a future, and a place to call your own.
For generations, Capital Farm Credit has been the trusted lending partner for land loans, farmers, ranchers, and rural dreamers just like you.
Their personalized loan solutions cater to your unique needs, making the journey to land ownership smoother than ever.
Capital Farm Credit, your land, your legacy. Visit CapitalFarmCredit.com or Mark Rutledge at 512-892-4425.
Capital Farm Credit, an equal credit housing lender.
Interior design should be an investment in your life and home. Let M. Elliott Studio transform your space, where interior design meets excellence in Central Texas.
Beyond just selecting colors and furnishings, team principal and owner, Montana Elliott, is a trained and licensed interior designer.
With her knowledge of architectural principles, building codes, space planning, and design theory, her team will work with you to understand your needs and lifestyle.
From concept to completion, M. Elliott Studio is committed to enhancing your space with a timeless and classic style.
Ready to redefine your space?
melliottstudio.com, 512-781-0224.
This portion of the show is brought to you by the Mallet Integrity Team of real estate professionals. They are based in Dripping Springs and bring you over 45 years of combined experience helping people reach their hill country real estate dreams. When you want the best in town, call them at 512-829-2062 or look them up at malletintegrityteam.com. And now, here's Steve and Michelle.
All right, we're back with Steve Warntjes from the Stop Fitzhugh Concert Venue Coalition. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So tell us, well, I want to know, first of all, are you a Dripping Springs resident?
Yeah, so my wife and I and my daughter moved here in 2007, and we've lived on Fitzhugh Road that entire time.
Oh, wow. So, okay, long time.
Yeah, long time.
Big changes up and down that road.
Incredible. And, if I think about it from when we came, I don't think there was a single brewery or distillery out there in 2007.
Yeah.
And now, you well know how many of them are out there, right?
I don't know. That stretch of Highway 290 from Johnson City to Fredericksburg, I think, had one winery when we moved here. Now there's 75. But they're all coming out here.
Why do you think that area is so, those breweries have gravitated towards that area?
I personally think, it's naturally a beautiful place, which is why I live there in the first place. Mm-hmm. And I think, it gives people, specifically in Austin, a chance to kind of get out of the city at a reasonable distance. Get out there. There's enough land so the kids can run, the dog can run, they can play, they can kind of get away without having to drive 3 hours.
Yeah, it is a nice little area.
Yeah, it is. So when did you first hear about this proposed project, this 5,000 seat amphitheater music venue, and how far away is that from where you live?
So I would say I heard about it in late 2021, early 2022, and I live about a mile down the road from where the proposed venue is to be built. Okay.
How did you hear about it? Was it because when someone buys something, they don't have to announce what they're building, right? So
as I mentioned, my neighbor and I share an ag exemption, and I'm really close to him, and I think he's the one that told me about it. I don't know how he knew, but.
When you first heard about it, were you extremely concerned, or were you kind of like, I need to look into this a little bit more? It
was the latter. Okay. I wasn't extreme, and then it's one of those things. It's a thread in a sweater. The more you look at it, the more you pull, and the more you go, oh man. Which led me to the path of eventually, helping to form this strategic committee on what we're going to do about this.
So give us the history on that. So you looked into it, you got extremely concerned, and kind of walk us through the steps of, who did you contact? How did you get that set up?
So I knew a bunch of people that were already concerned and were thinking about it. And so we started having some meetings about, well, gosh, what are we going to do about it? And what actually came out of that was the two different organizations that we have today. Fitzhugh Neighbors, which is really kind of a longer term concerned group around the Fitzhugh corridor that's there to really make sure that over time it retains its character and its quality of life. And then shorter term, we went, well, yeah, that's all good. And certainly that's on the concert venue is on the radar for Fitzhugh Neighbors. But man, we think we have to do something else here to be more specific about trying to drive action around the stoppage of the concert venue.
So the concert venue, there's been a ton of development up and down that road.
Yes, sir.
Is the concert venue the first thing that you guys it raised the bar so much that you guys said, okay, now's the time, or have there been other things that you guys have been involved in?
I think it's the first one that really got our attention, and we went, oh man, we really think we have to do something about this, right? Okay. Now, in theory, we could have done that around the breweries or distilleries, but they're orders of magnitude smaller in scale. And when you think about that, the other thing that Fitzhugh Neighbors is concerned about is, let's just think past this concert venue. Let's just assume for a minute we're able to shut it down. You think it's going to be the last one? No. Exactly to our point. So we started thinking about this again broadly and long term and went, man, we have to think about this and get in front of this to try and make sure we can maintain the quality of this corridor.
So tell us a little bit about, at what point did you figure out who was developing it and what do you know about them?
Okay. So we researched it, of course, through the public information, and specifically they submitted a wastewater thing, and they also submitted the initial TIA, traffic impact analysis. And so you can find out about those through that. Of course, then you find out who the developer is. And so the developer is a company called Blixus that kind of does this for a living based on my research. They have concert venues in California and in other places, and they run build, construct, run, operate concert venues for a living.
I think they're based in Palo Alto from the little bit of research that I've done.
Yeah, there's someplace in California. They have a concert venue in California. I can't remember where it is, that I researched to compare, size, scope of what they're planning to do here versus what they've already done.
Yeah, Michelle found some information about that. Did
Yes,
you have a
and
picture
it
of
was
that?
in Saratoga is where it
that's
was, by
right,
San
that's right.
Jose. Mm-hmm. So how do you answer the argument that it's private property rights, and people are able or can build what they want to build?
Well, first of all, I deeply respect that right. Okay. I do rainwater collection on my property, and I very, very much love that. And I would not appreciate people telling me I can't do that. Mm-hmm. By the same token, I think all of us in the corridor, as well as everywhere else, has a responsibility to the environment and to the safety and the health of all the constituents that are close. So you don't just get to do anything you want if you've harmed the environment, or you put the safety and health of the people that live around you in jeopardy.
How is SOS involved in this, the Save Our Springs
broader
Coalition?
question than that, I think, is, so you've had some financial partners involved in the opposition. So who are they, and what's their level of involvement?
So the biggest partner that we have is, of course, the Shields Ranch. And for the Shields Ranch is a 6,400 acre space that actually borders right up with the concert venue, and actually borders my property as well. Okay.
Oh, okay.
And so they're concerned about, the preservation of that land and any water runoff, wastewater. Of course, Barton Springs runs through there and all the rest of that. They are our single biggest partner, I would say. Now, these two different organizations I've spoken of, mostly the Stop Fitzhugh concert venue, these are nonprofits that were formed, and people can give tax deductible money to that. We'd love that, and we're trying to use that very, very wisely to get as much as we can out of that. And we think about we've done this right. It's structured, bank accounts, the whole thing, so it's completely 100% above board. But those two organizations, mostly the Stop Concert Venue as well as the Shields Ranch, are the two kind of primary organizations that I'm aware of that are driving this. Okay. We have some other organizations that are involved, I would say, but more at the fringe.
Okay.
And so Save Our Springs, are they?
I don't know. I'd have to go look, to be honest with you.
Okay.
I don't know their specific involvement.
So what I want to know is, as a bird's eye view of looking where the proposed concert venue is, and then just in layman's terms, totally just in layman's terms, and then looking at where Barton Creek is, when you talk about runoff and the impact that it could have on Barton Springs, explain to me why a venue or some sort of place that would be, I don't know exactly.
What are your concerns about the location as far as the water quality in Barton Springs?
Okay, so
Barton Creek, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
There's about 7 questions in there.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take them one at a time. Okay, so first of all, where is the concert venue? So if you look at Fitzhugh, and specifically the intersection of Troutwine Road and Fitzhugh, it's about a quarter to a half a mile east of that. So that's where the concert venue is to be located. It's I want to say it's around 50-ish acres, 40 to 50 acres. Okay. And
I think it's 22.
No, that's the impervious cover. That's the amount of parking lot that they will have covered for runoff. Okay. And that's 66%. That's 66%. So do the arithmetic. I think it's, again, between 30 and 40 acres. Okay. And so, great question, by the way. Okay. So that's where the concert venue is. And all of those roads that are around it, Fitzhugh Road, Troutwine Road, Crumley Ranch Road, are all 10 to 12 feet wide, with no shoulders and no lights. So think about 2,000 cars leaving the concert venue in the dark on a winding road that people aren't familiar with no shoulders. Okay. And so, which leads me to probably my key in this whole discussion, which is about that's good. I've modeled that. As I mentioned, I'm an engineer and a manager, so I modeled it because I couldn't help myself. Yeah, right.
That's what engineers do.
That's right. I
the analytical brain.
I went so far as to go to the stoplights and time them. How long is the red? How long is the green? How many cars get through? And I use that all as part of the analysis. And people are going to be getting out of there for hours. It's going to take hours after the concert venue for roads to get back to normal. What's going to happen if, heaven forbid, there's a wreck or I have a heart attack?
And you're stopped in the middle of the road with ambulances and fire trucks.
Those roads are going to be impassable. That's my point. Short of a helicopter, good luck.
Yeah.
For the duration of that. And that's just when the concert's over. What about when people are coming?
Yeah.
That's 5-ish, 6-ish, rush hour time. All right. I'll get back to the question at hand. So that's kind of the framing about where this thing is and the roads and everything else. And if you look at the map, which is on our Stop Fitzhugh concert venue site, you can see where that is located and how close it is to the Barton Springs. And basically from where they want to build the concert venue to Barton Springs is downhill. And so you got 22 acres of parking lot. Think about what's going to happen when you get one of those, rains that we have out here sometimes that's an inch in an hour. There's going to be a lot of water running out of the concert venue, through the Shields Ranch, and into Barton Springs.
I was reading from their side, from the developer side. It was a news article. I think it was out of San Antonio, that they were saying that the developer was looking at different ways to construct this parking lot. But they haven't found it yet,
I
right?
wonder if TCEQ will make them put in detention ponds.
We've talked about all that, and back to TCEQ, they originally approved the first wastewater plan without a lot of public notification, I'll say. And so Senator Campbell has actually got them to do another public hearing where we'll be able to find out what's the plan.
When is that?
That's scheduled to be sometime in January or February of next year.
So you had a meeting a couple weeks ago. Walt Smith was there. Did you guys request that and Walt came out, or who kind of put that together?
So Judge Becerra put that together. Okay. That was the 2nd of October. I believe this was the 2nd.
Okay.
I was out of town, so I don't remember the specific day. So we had that meeting, and it was standing room only. Our estimate is that there were over 400 people that attended that meeting, and the objective of it was just to let the community come out and talk about what's going on here.
It was just more of kind of an information gathering. It wasn't necessarily any kind of ruling or anything that was going to be.
Was there a representative from the developer there?
I do not know.
Okay.
Oh,
I would be
incognito.
I'd be shocked to think there wasn't, but
yeah. So Ashley from ECPR, which is a PR firm, is sitting in with us, but she's not on the mic. But were you there at that?
I wasn't.
You were there. Was there a representative from? Okay, so there was no
formal representative.
Yeah.
So you said that Walt was there.
Judge Becerra.
So Walt, was the mayor there? Was Mayor Folds there? Do you know?
I do not know.
Well, the mayor doesn't remember the mayor on
Yeah, I
on the
listened to
show.
the podcast.
Yeah, so they don't have any say in that. I'd be surprised if the mayor was there.
What about Walt's position? How is he? Is he being Switzerland on this, or is he because traffic studies and whatnot?
So this is how I would frame it. One of the questions you asked me is, well, who are your allies?
Yeah.
And the way I like to think about that is I don't know that we have allies or that we don't. What we do have is people that are in the government that are listening, that are asking questions, that are forming a fact-based opinion, and I will hope will drive that to the proper closure. Mm-hmm. And so, I don't really want to throw anybody under the bus, and I don't really want to give accolades to anybody necessarily, because I want us to act like a giant team and address this as adults. And I don't believe that playing a lot of politics is going to help.
Yeah. So I think you said proper closure. So in your mind, is that proper closure that this venue never happens?
Great question. I would say, never happens is a strong term, right? We've looked at it, let's just put it in perspective. If it was 100 people, I don't think we'd be worried about it.
Yeah. Well, that's about what a brewery would get on a typical
so I mean,
night.
if you could scale it properly, we're not against music at all. Be very clear. We're not against music at all. What we are against is endangerment of the public and our quality of life. Okay. So never happen. I'm certain that if it was small enough, we wouldn't be concerned.
Well, that was going to be one of my questions is first of all, have you had any contact with the developer? Has anybody reached out to you and said, hey, let's have a conversation?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. So then the second question would be, is there anything that if you were sitting with them right now, is there anything that you could tell them, hey, if you guys did this, and this, we would be okay with it?
I have thought about this a lot. And I think what it boils down to is the infrastructure has to be proper. Now, we could argue for the rest of the day on what proper infrastructure is, but the proposed size of the venue today compared to the available infrastructure and what they have told us they plan to do, right? Because they came out and said, well, we want uniformed police at these intersections. So I took all that for granted when I did my own traffic analysis, right? And so were they able to provide the proper infrastructure, which I would go so far as to say is probably shoulders and a couple lanes in each direction for Fitzhugh Road between 290 and Ranch Road 12. Now, everybody has the right to disagree with me.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I'm sure that doing that would cost so much money that financially it wouldn't make any sense for them to do it.
That would be their decision, not mine.
That's true.
I'm just looking up just for reference from my mind what the Austin City Limits, the Moody Theater seating capacity is, and because I've been there a couple of times for concerts, and it's a 2,700-ish seating capacity.
So this is
about
double.
Half. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's huge.
Yeah.
Well, it kind of baffles me in the sense when I was reading their position, they were saying they expected 3 days a week. I can't see anybody doing 3 days a week, especially in this area. But I wonder
if you go, yes, but if you go back and look at that concert venue that you brought up, you said it was around San Jose.
Yeah,
you can find the schedule, and that's what they do.
Really?
Yeah, because I went and looked it up because I was like, holy cow, how many? What are we talking about here?
So it's like Friday, Saturday, Sunday kind of thing?
Yeah, or a Wednesday, Saturday.
Okay.
I mean, I used to be in the radio avenue, and we used to do like new face showcases, and we use Nutty Brown a lot. KVET, Coke FM, they would use that venue, and I don't actually remember or know what the seating capacity there was when we would have full Kevin Fowler or Eli Young or whoever that we would have there. But, it would seem bumper to bumper. And we had Hayes County, or was it Travis County? Maybe it was Travis County. They would have sheriff officers helping getting people in and out.
Well, yeah. And Michelle, think about that. That's on to 290.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a major artery. Compare 290 in Fitzhugh.
It reminds me also of when they first decided to build F1 out there, out near Bastrop, and what a giant mess it was when I first went out to F1 to a concert and waited in line for 3 hours just to get into the parking lot. Now it seems like things have been streamlined. They've figured out traffic patterns, and so I just don't see personally driving up and down Fitzhugh. I know there's two ways into Fitzhugh.
Actually, the location is actually pretty smart, and I could see why they targeted it because you've got Crumley Ranch Road going to the north, Trout Line to the south, Fitzhugh going east and west. I mean, if you looked at that, it's an intersection of four, which are now country roads. But we all know those won't be country roads forever.
Right. And Steve, that's exactly to my point about, well, what would it take? If that infrastructure was proper, then I would agree with you. It is not.
So that was one of the things I wanted to bring up is you almost could make that argument for every development that's ever happened that, well, the infrastructure can't support it. So I'll give you an example. So back not very long ago, 75 years ago, the road here in front of right through Dripping Springs was a 2-lane dirt road. And so somebody wanted to build a restaurant. There could have been somebody that said, but 100 people a day are going to come to this restaurant. We don't have the infrastructure for that. So the question, I guess, there's some responsibility from the county and the state to keep up with when development starts happening. And so I'd say some of this responsibility is on the county for not. If you look at the development up and down Fitzhugh, it's obvious that it's coming.
Well, it's all commercial, right?
So it's almost 100% commercial.
So I agree with you, and I would frame it this way: that road here in Dripping Springs didn't go from what it is today from 75 years ago in a day. Okay.
No, that's true.
Slowly that built. The county looked at that. The appropriate authorities looked at that, and they started to scale the infrastructure.
Right.
Okay. The mayor talked about scaling infrastructure in your podcast with him. Okay. Similarly, when I moved to Fitzhugh Road in 2007, well, there wasn't any of that. It's happened. Obviously, we already agreed to that, but there's been no infrastructure improvement. And now you put into place this concert venue. That's not a little change. That's a step function change.
Oh, it's huge. There's nobody that could say that's not a huge change.
Yeah. So my point is, I agree with you. The infrastructure has to change, and it's part of the county's and the government's responsibility to do that. But you can't expect them to change overnight to that kind of an impulse response.
I think the government's attitude is always they almost want to go into it kicking and screaming. I actually think that it's way beyond that time for that road to have been improved. I mean, that road, I'm sure you stand out there for 10 minutes. There's people going by 70 miles an hour, and there's no break in traffic anymore. It's just nonstop.
I mean, my wife and I talk about this all the time. In the weekends, we're afraid to pull out of our driveway.
Yeah, I bet.
Because people are going fast on a narrow road. It's dark, and heaven forbid if they've been drinking. Right?
You feel that now before a venue's even there. So was there a push before the venue was even thought, an idea in someone's head or bank account, to kind of push the city or the state or whatever county to fix that road? And so now, is it because that the venue is going in now, it's a bigger kind of highlighted problem?
If you go back, and I can't remember who said this, or I'd tell you, there was a plan to improve Fitzhugh Road that was supposed to happen in 2030.
We talked to TxDOT the spokesperson last week, and he said that was off the table too.
Yeah, he said there was nothing on the books for Fitzhugh.
I at one point heard that they had planned infrastructure improvements for 2030. Apparently, you corrected me. There's nothing in the plan.
Yeah,
so
I was surprised at that. I was really surprised.
I mean, that's, to me, that seems one of the most needed areas for some improvement.
I'm biased. I live there.
Yeah.
Right. But I would agree with you 100%.
One of the questions that I has your group reached out to any other kind of opposition groups that kind of paved the way for you guys? Like I mentioned F1, maybe was it 10 years ago?
Maybe some that have been successful, because the people that fought against F1 were not successful.
But who was successful here in town? The concrete plant people.
That's true.
Do you remember that whole thing? And that was kind of right when the Dripping Springs Neighbors page, and that was a social media push. Those people, the difference I think what's going on here is they were local people. These people were raising their kids in Dripping Springs, and everybody just kind of piled on. This developer, my understanding is he's not local, right? He may have some family that's local, but he's not local.
Can't speak to it.
We have reached out.
Actually, if anybody knows the developer, I guess there's a guy that's in charge of development, Bill Leclerc, with BlizzExis, and Lexor, I guess, is the main company.
Is the parent company.
Is the parent company. We'd love to, we want to give everybody an opportunity to speak their piece. It does, but so I asked you earlier, you haven't heard anything from them. I wonder why these developers come in and don't at least have conversations with people.
Do you think it's safer that way? I mean, if they're not out there having their voice on social media, then no one can attack them.
Well, I wouldn't do it on social media. I would do it face to face. That's what I would do, because, hey, I'm going to do this development. I want you guys to understand what it is. So I'm going to kind of circle back around. It sounds to me like the only tool that you guys have that might work is this TCEQ permit, legally.
I think there's two avenues. I think there's the TCEQ wastewater avenue, and I also think there's another avenue around this infrastructure thing that I've talked about. Because at some point, it is the responsibility of our government to say, Mr. Warntjes, we cannot keep you safe at your place. And I would hope that somebody in the government actually looks at that, stands up, and does it right.
See, and I don't disagree with you. I think
But we are talking about the government here.
Well, but they have to have the tools to be able to enforce that. I'm not sure that the county has that tool to be able to tell somebody on an unrestricted piece of property that they cannot develop that into the use that they want because people don't like it.
Steve, not to interrupt you, but I'm going to interrupt you just for a second because it reminds me of Steve actually when he's talking about like face to face. Steve actually went through something just like this a couple of years ago. They were building something across from him, but it was about permitting issues. They were trying to not use it for the original use, right?
So this was in the city limits, and I think if there are legal avenues and legal pressures, then you should pursue those.
Yeah, there is one, and it's called the Mass Gathering Act.
Okay.
Oh,
Tell us
explain
about that.
Yeah, explain that.
Okay. So as I understand, I'm not a lawyer.
Okay.
That's my daughter. I'm not a lawyer. Okay. The Mass Gathering Act that says that if you have to have over N people, and I can't remember, it's a pretty small number. It's 100 or 200, something like that. Then you have to have a permit for that. Okay.
Okay.
And in the discussion we had with Judge Becerra, I think that ultimately that someplace in Hayes County, that Mass Gathering has to be approved. And when we talked about that with them, you typically get a Mass Gathering Act. We're going to have a concert 2 weeks from Tuesday. Can I have my Mass Gathering permit? And we wanted to flip that around and go, why don't we talk about the Mass Gathering Act, which is about ensuring the safety of the community, and have that discussion before they ever build it?
But they're in the ETJ.
No,
right?
They're not in the ETJ.
They're not.
They're just in the county, right?
They're just in the county.
Okay.
That's right.
Yeah. So there's very little guidelines that.
That's interesting.
I think the county, the only thing that is, if
So
they
if
drill a
there's
well, they got to get a permit
But
for
if
a
there's
well.
very little
Wastewater.
guidelines, then
Yeah,
does the
wastewater.
Mass Gathering Act, is that null and void? Do they even have to
I
get?
don't know.
No,
That's
they have
the
to
first
get
I've
that.
ever heard of this.
They have to get that, is my understanding.
So I think we want to reach out to, or we want to kind of pay homage to some of the people, the neighbors that have written on the neighbors page some questions. And
Do you want me to go first?
you go first.
So Kelly Hill wrote, "What can locals do to help stop this from being built? What has been the progress on fighting this, and what's the biggest challenge they face?"
Again, there's three questions.
There
in
is
there.
3 questions. I can
What
go
was the-
back and
what-
remind
yeah,
you if you want.
What was the first one again?
What can locals do to help stop this from being built?
Okay, so go to the Stop Fitzhugh concert venue, give us some money. We on that concert venue page, you'll find out all about the meetings that are going to happen. You can contact all of your representatives on that, the email addresses. Reach out. You have to be heard. Please, please, please help us give the voice of the community to your concerns and to the proper public officials. Okay, that was the first one. What's the next
All
one?
right.
What has been the progress on fighting
What's been the
this?
progress? How do you guys feel like it's going?
It's an uphill battle, I would say. The fact that we got a second hearing from the TCEQ was a big win for us. The fact that they have to do another traffic impact analysis, I think, is a huge win. I mentioned that I did this analysis. I did that so that we would have a baseline. If they come back and say, no, there's not a problem, somebody better be able to explain to me how they arrived at that, because this is my work, and I'm not a traffic engineer, but man, if it's radically different, you have to have a baseline. Otherwise, you don't know.
Right.
That was the point. Okay. So we made a bunch of progress on that. You drive up and down Fitzhugh Road. Count how many of those signs you see.
Signs as in the
Stop the concert. Stop the concert.
Someone
venue.
mentioned that to us too when we were talking about
I know.
doing
Yeah,
this.
we were telling somebody we were going to have you on, and they were saying, "Yeah, I don't know anything about what's going on, but I sure see the signs all over the place."
Yeah, so I would argue that our success has been really raising the awareness of the community and our public officials with respect to this issue. Now, that doesn't stop it per se, but it's the first step is awareness.
Sure.
So Ty Running Bear, not your real name, Ty. I know it's not, but he said, and we've already kind of debunked the first part of his question, but I'm going to read the whole thing. Why do they think they can control what someone else does with their property outside of the ETJ? Participation is now optional. but I wanted to read his whole question. But why did they not protest any of the other 15 wineries, distilleries, breweries, and event venues on that stretch of venue? And what legal entity do you think has authority over unincorporated areas?
Pretty obvious that he's sort of opposed to stopping it. But I don't know. We kind of touched on some of that already. The other 15 wineries, distilleries, and breweries, you didn't feel like that was going to bring as much traffic.
Well, and they're just much smaller in scope. We're talking about 100 people, or I don't even know. I haven't been to all of them, but we're not talking about 2,000 cars.
That's Treaty Oak, right? Treaty Oak is down there. Yeah. There's what else
Solara.
is Fitzhugh Brewing.
Beerberg is there.
I know that the Cabela's have a wedding venue down there.
But all of those are small in scale relative to this. I would argue think 200 cars versus 2,000 cars, an order of magnitude.
Yeah, that's the fact that it's 5,000 seating venue comparative to the Moody Theater. That kind of blows my mind a little bit.
In terms of his question, what legal entity do we think has authority? At the end of the day, it's the county.
Okay.
And the Mass Gathering Act, is my understanding, has to be approved by the county. Full stop.
Are you leaning on them pretty hard?
It goes back to the ally response. Yeah. Okay. I want to be factual. I want them to know the community's opinion. If they want to debate the facts, they want to talk about that, I'm all day.
Who is them? When you say the county, like who is them?
That's the county commissioners.
Okay, so Walt Smith.
Right. I think it's some of the folks on the TCEQ.
Okay.
Right. And then I think it's the infrastructure above the county commissioners. And that gets a little fuzzy for me there. We have
the man behind the curtain.
Well, so there's the judges. There's also the people in charge of there's a county fire marshal.
Okay.
For example, that so
that's a fairly new position, I think.
Yeah. The point is, I don't understand all the working pieces and who's exactly got the politics and who's got the yay and nays.
Is part of that what Ashley does for you guys, is to figure out who to be talking to and who to be pressuring?
I think she helps, and there's a lot of people on our coalition, on the Strategy Working Council, that are much more plugged into that than I am.
Okay.
I do have a question. Did you ever attend a concert at Nutty Brown?
I never have.
Do you think your daughter did?
Probably.
So, I mean, people have brought that up. We had a perfectly good music venue, and it was Nutty Brown. And Steve and I talked about it. It was like, what do you think was the pressure for Nutty Brown to leave? Do you think it was the money from HEB? Do you think it was the pressure from Belterra, which Nutty Brown was there first?
He's an engineer. He's not going to.
Yeah, I know.
That.
But if you think about it, if this venue gets built, right, 10 years from now, and people are going, okay, who were the people that stopped it, and why? We're having such a great time.
That's a good segue. Ursula from Facebook says, "Do we even have a realistic chance of stopping this venue from happening?" And what do you feel like your odds are?
Oh, that's a hard question to put a number on. I would say it's as to whether or not we will succeed in the limit that is forever. I don't know. Mm-hmm. I like to be a glass half full guy on that and think so. What I can say unequivocally is that we've slowed it down.
Yeah, without a doubt.
There's no doubt. There's absolutely no doubt in my mind that we slowed it down. And time is money, right?
Well, yeah. My fear for you guys is because you have not been engaged by the developer, I don't feel like, I'm just going to be honest, I don't feel like they sense that you're going to have much of a chance. Because I think if they're obviously pretty smart guys, they've done this in other places. If they were starting to feel like, pressure. Oh, you know what, we really probably need to get these guys a little bit more on board, you'd have probably heard from them by now. I think they're probably going to be full speed ahead. And, I mean,
do you happen to know what their timeline build was, or they're just waiting for all these permits? You don't have any kind of benchmarks that they're hitting.
They have not published that to my knowledge.
Okay.
You start thinking about this. They got to have the TECQ. That's got to go through.
Mm-hmm.
The county has yet again got to sign off on this new TIA. That's they approved the first one, and that was done in a less than good.
I wonder what kind of oversight they have, though, because again, it goes back to, sometimes we say, well, they got to approve it, but sometimes it's not just a sort of carte blanche that they can say, no, we like that, or no, we don't. Sometimes it's only, okay, if it meets these 3 guidelines, then we have to approve it. We see that in the city here sometimes too, where somebody will say, man, I really don't want that on the corner. But if you look at the 10 requirements that the city has in their policies, it meets all of those. So the city can't say no.
Right. So the way this works from my point of view is we have a hearing. Let's say we get the new TIA. It'll be public. We'll all get to look at it. Last one was 153 pages. I read every page. Okay. And we'll look at that. And when we have a public hearing, I want somebody to explain to me how that's going to work. And if at the end of that, they can't explain it and they can't explain how they're going to deliver public safety, and then I would throw myself to the mercy of the court and say, how can you possibly do this?
What I want to ask you is, let's just say you had a sit down with the developer and they're willing to come to the table and mediate, negotiate. And they're saying, look, we're going to build this venue, but we're going to build this venue. We hear your concerns.
We want to be good neighbors.
Yeah, we want to be responsible. Right? Is there anything that the Fitzhugh Coalition would be willing to, and I know you're probably not.
Short of what you've already answered, short of changing it dramatically, is there a couple of things that you'd say, you know what?
Seating capacity by half
which may not be realistic because maybe, but what would you say if they said, look, we want to be good neighbors. What do you need from us to be good neighbors? But we're going to build it.
Well, the first thing I would say is, what is it? Okay. You're going to build it to your point.
Yeah.
It's like, well, you build in a 1,000-seater, you build in a 500-seater, or you build in a 5,000-seater, because we think the 5,000-seater is a non-starter. And so, and if you don't, then please explain to me how it's going to be safe for the community to do so based on rational discussion.
Yeah.
And if what comes out of that is, well, gosh, you're right, but just pretend it's me, okay? Mr. Warntjes, how would you feel about a 500-seat thing? Well, I'd start asking a lot of questions. Okay, what's that going to be like to the light pollution, the noise pollution, all those other things that I'm already still concerned about? Just because there's only 500 people there doesn't mean it's going to be any more quiet.
Right.
And so I think we would entertain having that discussion, but,
nobody's reached out.
Again, not to my knowledge.
Wow. Maybe they will after this.
Well, I'm happy to talk to them.
Yeah, a couple of comments on Facebook were, which I don't think they help you if you guys were making these arguments. Is like, why do they have to do it here? Can't they move it someplace else? Which is basically, that's
not in my backyard.
That's like, don't do it in my backyard, but go ruin somebody else's backyard. So,
well, but I do think there are other places you could locate it that would have the better infrastructure. Right? Look at that one they're building in Bee Cave. Right.
I know why I'm a real estate broker. I know why they chose that piece, because if you go get a piece that size on, say, Highway 71, it's not $3 million or what. I think they paid 2.7. It's $10 million. That's why they chose that piece.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean there aren't other places that you could find for your number, your $3 million.
Sure. Brandon Chesbro asked us, do you know how late can outdoor concerts last? Is it 10 p.m.?
I don't know per se.
I think it is 10 p.m. I think that's the curfew.
Is that
the noise curfew? I know. I think that's in Austin too. Like they have to, because I know that there were some issues at ACL. One of the artists was running late. His plane was running late, and he could only play for like 20 minutes. And people were a little ticked off about that because they said, "I'm sorry, there's a curfew."
Especially when concert tickets are what they cost.
Just go sit at Trader Joe's like the rest of us and listen to the concert.
But back to my original point, it'll be hours until people get done. So if it's over at 10 o'clock, the noise and the traffic is not going to be done at 10:01. Right.
I think what they're banking on, though, Steve, is that if they build it, the roads will come. I think that's what they're banking on. That if they put that venue there and you have a couple years of just horrific traffic problems, the county will have to address that. Right or wrong, I think that's what they're banking on.
Do you think that if this gets built with no concessions, do you think that the remaining residential, and I know this is your home and this is hard to say this, but do you think that the remaining residential people like yourself that are there will just be gobbled up? I mean, your property values are going to be.
That's one of the things I was
No,
going to
I-
say.
I
Your property
actually-
values have skyrocketed because of this.
Well,
Which I know
let me
it's
take a step
double-edged
back.
sword.
Yeah, okay. Let me take a step back on that. So, pre-concert venue, I would agree with you. Okay, and especially with the COVID, all of that happened, right? I actually think that my property value will go down once this thing is built, and the reason I think it'll go down is access to my property is going to be impossible.
But if you list it as commercial,
Well,
yeah, I mean,
it's not a commercial property today. Somebody could buy it and bulldoze the house and do whatever they
Is
want.
it unrestricted?
Yes, it is.
yeah, it could be commercial.
That's almost all those properties up and down Fitzhugh.
they are.
That's what they were. They were unrestricted. They weren't zoned commercial because there's no zoning there. But.
So,
I just would hope that a developer, like you use the word responsible, and I'm all about that. Is about responsible growth. In and around. Dripping Springs has been my home and my children's home for almost 20 years now. We've raised our kids here, and I welcome growth, I welcome change, but I welcome responsible. And the fact that it strikes me as odd that no one has reached out to any opposition and saying, okay, hey, let's just come to the table.
well, and to Steve's point, if you build it, they will come. Okay.
Yeah.
How many people got to die on that road first?
I thought that same thing, Steve, when I said it's like I'm scared to think of what traffic is going to be like on that road at 12 o'clock on a Saturday. With
trout
people
wine,
that
just
I
in
know.
general.
Oh, yeah.
is-
And those are low water crossings.
Yeah,
What
I
happens when it
know.
rains?
And there's been people killed there already.
Yeah.
I know.
What is rain? That would be nice.
Yeah. The other point that one of my colleagues would bring up if she was here is that the EMS response times are already terrible on that road. Think about that when there's 3 miles of traffic in each direction and no shoulder. You can have your siren on all day long. There's nowhere
Nothing's
to
gonna
pull
happen.
to.
Where's the nearest fire station to you?
There is one right at the intersection of 12 and Fitzhugh. It's a little bit east of there.
Okay, yeah, that's right. I was trying to remember.
I have a question, but I need to expand it a little bit. So you guys talk amongst yourselves because this is about following the money, and I wanted to figure that out about. Shoot, I'm so sorry, Steve. Ask a question.
So you mentioned the project across the street from me that we fought, and then you were asking Steve about successful coalitions.
Yes.
So I bought my property, Steve, in the Hayes Historic District, which is just over by Time and Doe, and there was somebody proposed a 28-unit apartment complex in a property across the street from me that is zoned. It was zoned SF4, which would allow the maximum would have been a fourplex or single family homes. And so they asked for a zoning change. And so myself and a bunch of our neighbors fought that through the city by saying, hey, we bought our properties in this neighborhood expecting that would stay single family homes or quad fourplexes max, and that we do not want you to give them this variance or rezoning. And we were successful at that. Yeah. And luckily, there are mechanisms in the city that allow you to say no, if you're affected by a rezoning change. So, but the reason I bring that up is because that's an example of people using the system to the advantage that, to keep something the way that it should be.
I wish we had that knob. I don't have that knob.
I know. It's a double-edged sword, right? You're in the city limits, you pay the taxes, you got the oversight, but then you do have those tools to keep things the way they are.
I found the question, and it's very interesting. And sometimes people don't really. I don't know. I don't know the intent of this question, but she said, "Follow the money. Exactly how much money have any of these builders donated to any of our local and state politicians?" I guess she's assuming that they've donated money, therefore they're on their side. But we were talking about allies earlier. What is the budget from these builders in California? I don't know how you would know that. What federal subsidies or county subsidies are we taxpayers giving them? That's a good question. You may not know that either. But what relationship, if any, to our local and state politicians? You touched on that. And have these builders had dinners out with our local and state politicians? Have they funded trips to California to discuss their concert venue? That's interesting. Do you, doing your due diligence, have you guys discovered any, are they in bed with any of our local politicians?
I can't say so factually.
Okay.
There's a lot of
Go ahead and guess, Steve.
anecdotal evidence is the term I'll use.
Okay.
That there are relationships that have been formed
Relationships. Okay.
that may or may not help to get this approved.
Okay.
Is that lawyerish enough
Yeah,
for you?
no. That is because I mean she's asking she's saying follow the money. She said we can look up donations through Federal Elections Committee, have them give you a list of all the names who are working with Dripping Springs and state officials.
Yeah, and
blah,
to
blah,
be
blah.
fair, we are a very diverse strategic team. I have my strengths and my weaknesses, and there are others that have a lot more strength with respect to this forensic money path than I do. And I know that some of them have worked on it.
Yeah, that's the way the game has worked for pretty much ever, as long as there's been civilization. So that's a hard one to follow. Even if you can say, they had dinners, that there's,
you can't. At the end of the day, it's pretty hard to prove anything.
That's exactly right. Well, this has been. I think anybody that listens to this podcast will get a lot out of this. You've been a wealth of information, and I've enjoyed listening to everything. And we didn't give you any questions you didn't have good answers to. So I was a little worried we were going to stump you on some things.
Is there anything we didn't ask you that you kind of want to get out to the public and be aware? I mean, I know you came in with some list of things. And one of the things that final question that I had was, I know that your group has hired a PR firm. And so all of this money, are you taking donations for this, or is this all funded by the neighbors of Fitzhugh?
So all of this is funded by donations to those two organizations that I spoke of. And I would highlight, we're not exactly flush with money. We're trying to get the biggest bang for every dollar we can, because we're not going to have hundreds of thousands of dollars to throw at this problem.
Yeah.
As opposed to, maybe that's their plan is we'll just
wait them out and
outspend them.
Well,
actually, the little bit of research I did, I think them having to wait an extra year is probably not going to do anything to dampen their enthusiasm.
You're very passionate about this, Steve, and I applaud you for that. And I would really hope and pray that the developers, again, with responsible developing, responsible building, would listen to you, would listen to the people that have to live, work, drive that road every day. Mm-hmm. And I applaud the work that you are doing and just kind of bringing awareness to all of your neighbors.
Well, yeah, and it's not me by any means. There's a lot of us working on this, and I want to give all of them credit for all the work. A lot of this stuff that I've prepared is based on me listening to them and asking questions. And, this is definitely not a Steve thing. This is a we thing.
Thank you for being the voice so that we can get it out.
Yeah, and if there's somebody who wants to get involved and find out more information, where do they go?
Go to the websites.
So give us the website address.
There's two of them.
Ashley probably knows it off the top of her head.
There's www.fitzhughnaeighbors.com, and then there's the www.stopfitzhughconcertvenue.com.
And all the information's right there.
I won't say everything is there, but there is more than enough to get you started.
And if there's a question that's not answered from the website, I'm sure there's an email address you can reach out. And
I think we're also, I'm not a big social media guy, but I know we're also available on Facebook and some other social media things that you can get in touch with us.
Okay. Well, good. This has been great. We do want to get the developer on here. I'm not sure if we'll be successful with that, but everything you've said makes sense to me. And it's going to be, we always try and be Switzerland in these things, but it's going to be interesting to see what the outcome is. We're going to watch it closely. So
as will I.
Oh, I'm sure you will. So, well, thanks very much for spending your time with us.
And thank you for having us and letting us have a chance to kind of get our position out there and maybe debunk some of the thinking on it. We're trying to come at this from a very logical, methodical, wise, responsible point of view.
Yeah, and you did. You can tell you're an engineer.
I'll take that as a compliment.
Yes, take it as a compliment. But thanks for coming in, Steve.
And Ashley, thank you for sitting in and coming as well.
Ready to turn your land dreams into reality? Look no further than Capital Farm Credit.
Need a loan for your perfect piece of land? Capital Farm Credit is there for you.
Their dedicated team will tailor a loan to fit your unique needs because your dreams are their priority.
Capital Farm Credit. Your land, your legacy. Visit capitalfarmcredit.com or Mark Rutledge at 512-892-4425.
Capital Farm Credit. Together, we're better.
Capital Farm Credit, an equal credit housing lender. Elevate your living experience with M. Elliott Studio, your trusted partner in interior design, registered and licensed by the state of Texas.
You want your home to reflect your personal style and identity. Investing in a well-crafted design doesn't just beautify your home, it enriches your life.
Team principal and owner, Montana Elliott, understands the profound impact of a thoughtfully designed space. From remodeling to full design, M. Elliott Studio is the first step to unlocking your style.
Turn your aspirations into reality. Tailored to your taste and desires, M. Elliott Studio will work to create an environment that embraces your style with style.
Your space, their expertise.
melliotstudio.com 512-781-0224.
This show has been brought to you in part by the real estate pros at the Mallet Integrity Team. When you're looking to buy or sell, you need them on your side. Why settle for less when you can have real estate done right? Give them a call at 512-829-2062 or get more info at malletintegrityteam.com.
You know you like us, so go now to Apple Podcast or Spotify and leave us a review. Why don't ya? We love your feedback and comments. Email us at malletandmichelle@gmail.com.
Thanks for putting up with us.